Thanks everybody for joining us today to go through this. This is kind of a newer print solution that's available. Some of the other manufacturers of the 3D printers have had some materials out, but I'm just going to go through the workflow of using this and how to incorporate it into your business. First, I'm going to give you a little information about Keystone. If you're not familiar with us and myself, I've actually been in this space now for 24 years. Most of those years were in CAD/CAM solutions, whether that be design solutions, making and manufacturing of surgical guides, in a number of other things, including milling and now 3D printing, which I've been involved in for almost 10 years. I work with just about every OEM printer that's out there, and as a resin company, Keystone specializes specifically in the dental resin market. Keystone actually has over 4,000 SKUs throughout the dental industry. We have offices throughout the world as well. All of our resins are made here in the United States, in both PA and New Jersey. So we do have a full stock of inventory here. So supply chain usually is in pretty good shape. So if you're ordering any of this stuff, the lead time should be minimal. Again, all of this stuff is fulfillment is done here in the US. Just a little bit about the Keystone resin journey. These products that we've offered, we started developing them in 2016. We launched with our dental resins in 2018. A few of our first resins were just model materials, and then the soft split material, which is one of the most utilized materials that's in our industry. All of our resins are specifically designed for the dental industry, so different from a lot of our competitors out there. We only work in the dental space, at least at this time, with our dental resins, and it really started off from what our core competency is cosmetic products for nail finishing. So a lot of those use the polymer materials that we use in our materials here, so it was a natural progression to actually move those resins over into our 3D printing solutions. One of the key cornerstones of what we do compared to our competitors is validations, and I'm going to touch a little bit on that and what's involved. Keystone takes this very, very seriously, and patient safety is one of our number one concerns, if not our number one concern. We go through a very long, arduous process to get validated, and I'm going to go through a little bit of the process that's involved with that in a moment. But first, just a little bit of a snapshot of what's going on in the industry when it comes to 3D printing. As you can see here, the growth numbers on 3D printing are incredible. If we look at the box to the upper right-hand side here, you can expect to see 25.2% growth year over year, which is known as a CAGR factor on this. So we can see here that the business itself is going to hit an $8.29 billion opportunity in the dental space by 2028. So any of you out there that haven't bought a 3D printer with the thought that it's not going to be mainstream, or it's not going to become standard of care, rest assured, I do believe that it's here to stay, and we're going to continue to see significant growth over the coming years. Just in the 10 years that I've been doing it, I can tell you that we've grown over tenfold easily, and we continue to see double and sometimes triple digit growths with different resins that are out there year over year. One of the driving factors for that is the impression scanners that are out there. This is just give you a kind of a demonstration as to how much of that is actually being done. This file was actually done in 2019, so it's a little dated. And I just read an article last week that the impressions, or the number of offices that are using digital impressions now, is 35% are sending files to laboratories. So this has grown just in these 2 years. You can see it's grown almost 15%. So we continue to see strong growth here. And you can see, I know when I first started in this back 20 years ago, actually about 15 years ago, when I saw my first digital impression wand, it was the Cadent technology, and that was really the only one that was out there. And now there's probably 40 different ones in this space. So prices come down significantly on these, which is driving the use of them, but also the accuracy that these things can provide. There's been a few studies done now comparing it to traditional impressions, and I can say confidently that the digital impression now is more accurate than the traditional impression material that we'd used. Now, just to give you an overview as to the validation and what's involved, this is an ongoing process. So whether you have a printer now or you're looking at or to purchase a printer, we offer some great resources for you to take a look at to decide on what you want to print and which printer you want to use. So we are actually at any time profiling any number of printers. We probably have 40 to 45 printers in our facility in New Jersey right now that we are constantly validating. This ensures that the resins that we provide on any particular printer are set up with the proper settings to utilize that machine and also to maximize the performance of the materials. So Keystone is again working, I would say at this time it was 30 and it's probably closer to 40 now. And each one of these printers is going to have different settings. So if it's a Sprint Ray, for instance, or if it's an Asiga or an EnvisionTech or a Desktop Health, all of those printers, although they have similar projectors in them, there is variances between the performance. So we need to make sure that we're setting those printers and those projectors up to maximize the performance of the material and also ensure that the patient safety is maximized. When you're looking at using a printer in your laboratories, you want to make sure that you're covered as far as the quality systems checks that are in place. We are going to see some changes in this in the coming months from the FDA and the governing bodies on how people are using 3D printers. It has been a very gray area, but we are going to see more restrictions or more guidelines from the FDA showing exactly what needs to be shown when they're using a printer. And that's going to include a number of different things, the validations on the material, but also on the printers. We, in fact, now are getting printers that are coming to us to do validations for them for their own materials, just because we've kind of gotten a very good process in place. So what is that process? Number one, the material itself has to be validated. So what would they do is they actually do a cytotoxicity test on the material. They put it in a petri dish and make sure that the fish hatch. If they hatch, then the material is considered to be patient worthy. The second part of this is actually doing the printer validation. So again, each printer that's out there has to be validated. So regardless of which printer you're using, you'll be able to go to our website and determine if it has been validated, number one, and what the settings need to be set at in order to properly use the material. So again, the printer is the second part of that, and actually probably one of the easier ones. The next one is the cleaning process. It's pretty standard now in 3D printing that we'll actually use a cleaning solution that's everybody uses. It's isopropyl alcohol. There is a couple of alternatives out there. And again, those would have to be validated through the FDA to ensure that the material is fully cured by the time it's put into the patient's mouth. The last part of this is the curing box. If I were to say that there's one area that there's difficulty in when actually getting a product finish is the curing box. Please make sure that you're utilizing the proper settings in those curing boxes and that those curing boxes have been validated. If you go on our website, you'll actually find the website here, keyprint.keystoneindustries.com, and then printer validation. This will give you an idea as to every printer that we've actually validated. The sheet on the left is actually double-sided, so you can see all the different materials that we offer and then all the different printers that have been validated for each one of those materials. So some, as you can see here, is the Asiga, who is a great partner of ours. They actually have validated virtually all of our materials. We did make an agreement with Desktop Health recently in the Einstein printer to validate all of our materials on that, which now they're going to be a completely open system with ours. And you'll notice there's a few other great partners that we have here that have validated more or less all of our materials. The illustration on the right is actually where we were back in 2018. It's interesting because if you look at where the market was then, there was only 5 printers that we had actually validated. Most printers back then were closed systems, or they weren't in the market in the dental space. So you can see here the number. Again, we're working with more than 40. So you can see we've grown, almost a tenfold when it comes to the number of printers that are in our space. So I know it's difficult out there when you guys are shopping for printers and deciding which ones to go with. This is a great resource for you to go to and really take a good look at what printers are truly open, because if they're not open, you're going to be limited on the materials that you're going to be able to use in it. So today's focus product is going to be the Tri-M material. This is a material that we introduced to the market back in February of 22. I'm sorry, this is a typo there. It's a product that we saw there was a great opportunity for, primarily because, well, number one, that the digital denture formula is really starting to grow and adoption is really starting to grow. but the cost of the material itself was very, very expensive. So this product that we offer is $259 a kilo, compared to some of them other ones out there that are $600, $700, or even $800 a kilo. The material itself comes in 3 formulas. It comes in A1, B1, and BL4. If we did a survey among a lot of the removable labs that are out there, asked them which were the most prominent ones that they use, these 3 shades will actually cover about 80% of the cases that you would do as far as a try-in. And it really does offer opportunities for both the laboratory and the doctor to win the approval of the patients that are using this. So just some of the strength parameters that are on here. You can see here that the strength, although it's not, say, a Flexera or the Dentsply material, but again, this is a try-in material. You will see this material morph into a temporary material once it gets through FDA for that, and then eventually onto a permanent restoration material. The illustration to the left, you can see here is there's the soft tissue area has actually been painted with a cosmetic kit. This is something that we will be offering after the first of the year, and this will really give you an opportunity to provide the patient with a realistic look as to what their final restoration will look like, and also allow the doctor to direct the laboratory as to what changes need to be made to this temporary in order to give the patient what they're looking for the final restoration. So what is this indicated for? This is intended to replace the traditional wax up for the try-in appointment, where the preliminary prosthetic design is evaluated intraorally for fit, function, and phontics. This applies to any provisional, whether it be a denture or an implant supported restoration, and some people are even using this for single tooth, just for the patient to get an idea what their final restoration is going to look like. So again, you can see a little bit of the cosmetic kit that you can add to this. Again, you can use this for implant cases or full removable cases or even partials. As far as the workflow is concerned and how it relates to a traditional wax up, obviously you have to consider how much time is involved in a traditional wax up. So time and labor, depending on what your removable clinicians are making, you're going to see a significant savings in doing it this way as opposed to that way. Post-processing on this is also very, very quick. Again, just once the print is done, it's the wash and you put it into the post-care unit. So you're not looking at more than 10 or 15 minutes to finish the product once it's printed. The nice thing about that is you can actually provide the doctors a try-in at a much faster rate than you would a traditional one. I think we're looking at it between 2 and 3 weeks for a traditional wax up, and you could probably do this easily in 2 to 3 days. Also, the shades on this, although there's only 3 right now, you're going to have a lot more shades on this in the coming months and years. So I think you'll see a massive improvement there. Also, the design, you can make a lot of changes in the design, and depends on which software that you're using or which software service that you're using. But the planning on this, I wouldn't say that it's foolproof yet, but I think we've come very, very far in the last 12 to 18 months. And I think you're going to see that advance even more. So I think you'll see more AI get involved in it, or artificial intelligence getting involved in this. So a lot of the guesswork that's out there now can be completed in a faster and easier way. And lastly, the aesthetics. I think if we just look at the performance of these products and how much they've improved over the last 2 to 3 years, it's tremendous. And we're still a long ways from there, I think. But I think eventually it's realistic to believe that you'll be able to print the entire denture with the teeth and the soft tissue area and make cosmetic changes to that. So it's going to give you a stronger result and a more aesthetic result than that's out there right now. If there's one limitation to doing digital workflows with removable products right now, it would be aesthetics. So I think we're going to see vast improvements there, and also the process that we're using to come up with a final restoration is going to be much quicker than what you would experience on a traditional removable model. The other thing here is for the patient. You can see here how many times the patient would have to come in to the doctor's office for with the traditional workflow. You're going to see this drop by almost half, if not more, the number of office visits they'd have to have when they're getting a denture made or any type of removable. Just as far as the indications for this material, it is limited to 24 hours in the mouth by the regulatory classification. Anything over 24 hours is not recommended. So that being said, the material was really indicated just for a a 30-minute try-in and make adjustments in the doctor's office. Now, I will say what we have seen here is when it comes to the doctor's visits, is we're seeing the doctors actually provide this to the patient to bring home and actually wear for, any period of time, and actually be able to make not modifications, but suggestions to modifications. A lot of times when a doctor has a patient in the office and they put a try-in, whether it's one of these or whether it's a wax up, it's hard for the patient to actually get a clear view as to what the final restoration is going to look like while they're in the doctor's office. They need to go home and look at themselves in the mirror and say, oh, do I want it this way, or do I want it that way? Does it fit? Let them wear it around for a little bit and make sure that it fits properly and that it aligns with the opposing and adjacent teeth and so on and so forth. So it really is an opportunity more than just an office visit, but to actually provide a patient with a very inexpensive try-in that they could bring home. Now, some of these will have the cosmetics of the soft tissue. Others will just provide it like this and give them the opportunity just to wear it around and see what they think about it. It's very inexpensive. You can actually probably print one of these. There's probably between 20 and 30 grams of material in this. So if a kilo is 1,000 grams and it's $2.59 a kilo. If you do the math, you probably get 30 or 40 of these at least out of a bottle. So you're not talking about a very expensive proposition. In fact, in some cases, in order to win the business, the laboratories are actually providing these because they're so inexpensive, free to the clinician in order to get the final denture business from the doctor. So it does take significantly less time to produce. So you're talking again about something you can turn around for the doctor's office. If you have a CAD design team and the right printers and whatnot, you can turn this around in 2 to 3 days as opposed to 2 to 3 weeks. Again, as I mentioned, the patients can take this home with them for a day or two just to come back and let the doctor know exactly what modifications might be needed. They make adjustments once the doctor makes suggestions on this. They'll go back and make adjustments to this actual try-in and then rescan it into a 3-shape scanner and then go ahead and print the final restoration. Or they could actually just come back and make modifications in the design off of what the doctor's notes provide. So it can be produced faster. I think with the digital workflow, many people wouldn't believe this 3 or 4 years ago, but with the accuracy of the intraoral scanners now, I would say that you're getting a more accurate restoration now than what you would get from a traditional impression through a wax up through a final denture being produced. So now we'll just go through the workflow as to how to use this material. First of all, the impressions can be done both digitally, or you can do a more traditional impression with the impression material. 2 schools to this. One of the drawbacks I will say with the intraoral scanners is getting the vertical out if you're doing dentures for both upper and lower. So traditional sometimes is a more accurate. I think a lot of prosthodontists will actually require a more traditional method. We do provide a key tray material, which provides for a custom tray. I do see more and more of this being used when it comes to doing removable products to provide a larger, more comfortable fitting, more accurately fitting impression tray for the doctors that are doing the impression the more traditional way. The digital impressions are improving dramatically month to month now, and I think we'll see more and more software that takes into consideration that vertical and make this design process easier. So I think we'll look forward to the future and see where what's coming next. As far as the product itself, it needs to be kept at room temperature. Now, this material itself, you want to follow the IFUs very strictly. So you want to ensure the resin is at room temperature. You don't need it to be, if it's in a freezer somewhere or if it's on a windowsill where it's too hot, it will cause problems with the material. So please make sure that it's kept at, again, room temperature. You want to make sure that you're agitating the bottle 1 hour prior to the use, and then make sure that there's no bubbles in the material after you pour it into the printer. So again, agitate the bottle for 1 hour prior to use. 5 minutes more, 5 minutes again to ensure the pigment is dispersed. What that means is that a lot of the color that's in this, if it's depending if it's A1 or B1 or so on and so forth, will settle in the bottle while it's sitting. So you want to make sure that you shake it up so it gets an even consistency throughout the whole print. So again, please, this is a very important point when it comes to this. Make sure that you are agitating the material before use. The next is the design part of this. Design is completed per the CAD software it depends on which one you're using and the directions that they provide for you. So this is a little bit, like I said earlier, a little bit more difficult design than say a single tooth or even an implant restoration. There's a lot of different things that you have to take into consideration when it comes to the bite and the vertical and so on and so forth. So this will vary from software to software. And there is some facilities out there that will actually do these designs for you. And Henry Schein and Zahn are fortunate enough to offer one of those services. So if you wanted to send it out to them, they can actually do the design for you. It's going to vary in price, obviously, in the amount of time that you take to or want to get it back. But this is a great resource if you're busy or you don't have a technician that knows how to do this. It's just to outsource this. They send it back and you put it into the printer and print. And again, make sure that you agitate the bottle. One of the key factors on this is you want to avoid where you put your supports. Obviously, this doesn't have a flat plane on it, so you're going to have to use supports. So it's important that avoid placing the supports on the intaglio surface. Sorry. So we early on, when I started doing this 10 years ago, we made that mistake. If you start to break these supports off and it's on the intaglio surface, it's really going to cause a problem for you as far as finishing. If you don't get all those entirely out, then the patient's obviously going to feel some discomfort with that. So please make sure that you're not leaving or avoid placing those supports on the intaglio surface. Once you've got the design made, you're going to send it over to your printer. Again, the SIGA printer is approved for all of this. On our website, this is, again, a great resource for you to use. You can go to there and it'll actually show you all the printers that are validated for the materials, and all of the printers that Zahn offers are validated with this material. Once you have that validation, you're sure that it's on there, you can actually go to the SIGA website, and there's a link right from our website to theirs. It'll actually go to the SIGA composer, and it'll actually show you exactly the settings that you want to use in order to print on that SIGA. And also there's 3 different models of the SIGA, so each one of those models may have different settings. So you want to make sure that you have the proper settings for the proper or whichever printer you're using. The next step on this is the post-processing. Keystone does offer, or Zahn does offer, the optimized material, which is the isopropyl alcohol. So if you need that, that is something that they also carry. The wash station is pretty basic stuff on that. Whether you're washing it by hand or have one of these machines to wash it. The auto flash is another key component. I think it's one of the areas that people make the mistake the most, or the most frequently asked question for me is which post-curing unit to use. I had a question from a carbon user this morning. They're switching post-curing units. So it is something that you want to make sure that you follow. And again, we have a link on here that'll show you which post-curing units have been validated. So just go to this. But all the parts must be cleaned with isopropyl alcohol within approximately 8 hours of the completion of the print. Keystone discourages the use of denatured alcohol or ethanol. Another thing I want to just point out here, and I ran into this question last week, was can I leave this in the material? What happens if I leave it in the cleaning solution too long? You do not want to leave this in a cleaning solution or any of our printed material in it for more than a couple of hours at tops. You want to make sure that you're taking it out and drying it off when you're done with the post-curing and or washing, because you want to make, if you leave it in there, it will cause problems with the material. So please don't leave it overnight in a washing station. If there's any additional questions you have about the directions for use with this, we do have our IFUs that are all on our website. So just go on to this and it'll give you all the instructions, all the safety issues that you may have, all the information that any of your doctors may have as far as this is concerned when it comes to putting it into patient's mouth. It is very important. This is an area where I think that some of our competitive materials don't offer the proper validation documentation for this. This will ensure that the patient safety is adhered to. Just a few other things that completes the stuff about the try-in, just a few other things about the materials that Keystone does offer. We have both lab resins and medical device resins. You can see here the #1 printed material that's out there right now, or process that's out there right now, is the models. It's 94% of the printing that's being done out there is for models. That being said, that's a little skewed only because of the orthodontic market and the number of models that are used for doing vacuum forms for clear liners. So those guys are doing hundreds of thousands of models a day. So that's what skews this number. The second most printed technique is for the night guards. Night guards are actually 46% of what's being printed, and that's actually jumped from the 4th place position to the 2nd place in the last year, primarily because of the soft splint material, and it is very profitable for both the laboratory and also for the doctor. So we've seen a tremendous growth there. Surgical guides, gladly I'm seeing this, or happily I'm seeing this. It's actually 43% of it. More and more cases are using these, and I think we're going to see continued growth in this space as more and more doctors become proficient at both using an intraoral scanner with an implant analog, or just the overall planning software that's out there for surgical guides. So Wax Ops is number 4. That was number 2 a year ago. Again, a great resource if you're going to be doing a lot of wax ups. This is if you want to design them and just print them. It's a much more efficient way to do it. Again, just the night guard material that's out there. This is our number 1 selling material next to our model material, volume wise, but this has been a tremendous product. There is some competitors that are out there now, but what we're finding is a lot of them try the other materials and seem to come back to this. So this material comes in both a hard and soft, and it comes in the traditional tinted version, or it comes in a clear version. So the clear version now is going to be available on many more printers by the end of the year. We're in the process of validating most of those as we speak. It was an exclusive product to the Carbon, and now it's available on, it'll be available on just about every printer that's out there. This material, the hard splint, again, was introduced because a lot of the people weren't so sure about some doctors, at least, were not so sure on the soft material. Just the name in itself, they were concerned with bruxers or whatnot, tearing these things up. We've gone through volumes of testing on this product, both for the hard and the soft splint. The hard splint, one of the nice things about that, it is not brittle compared to a more traditional hard splint, and the manufacturing of that. The elongation of break on this is very, very good. So even to our competitors that are printing hard guards out there, this material will surpass the expectations of what people have. I've not had one of these break. I have not had a soft splint break either, but it's performed extremely well, especially when it comes to the brittleness and whatnot. The key guide, as I mentioned before, this is a growing market, and this is done very well for us as well. We're seeing a big jump in the number of surgical guides that's being used. Some of our competitors that have used this technique to produce a surgical guide, they run into issues with either the smell or the taste of some of our competitors. This has neither smell or taste to it. It also has a very good flexural strength. So obviously, as you're putting this in the patient's mouth and you're drilling through it, you do not want that brittleness in. We are not seeing any breaking with this. It prints very, very accurately. One of the key components of printing one of these is getting the sleeves to fit properly into the surgical guide, especially around the occlusal surface where the shelf is, where it fits down into the guide. This prints very, very cleanly when it comes to that, and the sleeves fit very, very accurately. Indirect bonding tray material, which is used for transporting brackets into the patient's mouth. So they basically will design this in a software, print out the indirect bonding tray, place the brackets in it, and carry it to the patient's mouth and light cure right through it. So this cuts down the chair time for the orthodontic doctor or anybody who's placing brackets by almost 2/3. So traditional appointments an hour and a half, now they're down to about a half hour. So, and it also gives them more consistent placement of the brackets. So when it requires less wire bending throughout the patient care. Some of the lab resins, we talked about the tray material. The wax up material, we did mention that earlier as well. This is a great material. It does burn out very well. The people that have used it see a significant improvement over what they've used in the past as far as the burnout on this, and it does print very, very accurately. Next is the model material, which is, again, in volume, is probably our biggest seller. The benefit to this product, obviously, it prints very, very cleanly. So if you're going to do vacuum forms on this, you're not going to see all the lines in those vacuum, the vacuum clear liners. It also is very, very accurate, and it actually prints quite a bit faster than some of our competitors. It's the viscosity of this material allows for it to be printed a lot faster. And lastly, the material itself is actually only $80 a kilo. So depending on which printer you're using or which model material you're using, there could be a significant savings here compared to what you're using. So if, many of our competitors are charging $150 to $180 a kilo for this. So there is significant savings when it comes to this. We have mask material as well. So if you're doing implant cases, this is a great resource for you to use. to provide more realistic emergence profile models for doing those implant restorations if you're making modifications to the abutments. And we talked about that. And just a couple last ones, accessory items. So just a polishing kit if you are using the surgical guide, or I'm sorry, the night guard material. This is all the tools you're going to use. These tools are similar to what you would use for the try-in as well. So if you want to polish that try-in to a shine, you can use these products here to do that. And then just some accessory items to for maintenance on your different printers. Lastly, some of the things that are coming soon. We have temporary teeth, which is again just a next generation of our try-in material now. Just waiting for some more FDA approvals on that. The denture-based material is also coming as well, so we should have that out in the first quarter of next year if everything continues to go at the pace that it's going at. So we'll have. We were going to launch this about a year and a half ago, but we actually decided not to, only because we thought that it was just kind of a Me Too product. So we went back and said we want to kind of come out with a new or set a new bar for this, so that whether it be the strength and more importantly the aesthetics of this product at this point, I think we've proven the strength is there with the Flex Air and the dense ply material. We want to have something at least as strong as theirs, but we also want to have something that's more aesthetic for the patient outcome. So we also are going to be offering the cosmetic kit. I did mention that in an earlier slide. This is a tremendous product, or we're expecting a lot from this. This can be used on any acrylic. It's going to have veining in it. It's going to be coming in different shades. So you'll be able to provide it, especially on a temporary, to be able to just paint this onto a temporary denture, and a number of different cosmetic solutions. So you can give the patient a better or more realistic view as to what their final restoration is going to look like. So this again can be painted on a temporary material that's printed or a more traditional acrylic material. And the last is clear liners, which it used to be a big focus. I don't think it is as much anymore. I think that the workflow on this is still yet to be determined, especially when it comes to the post-processing, but I would expect it to be a year or two at least before the clear liners is a regularly printed product on your 3D printers for clear liners.